the thing that I think it's top of mind, I had a lot of people asking about social media recently, and a big thing, and I've touched on this before, is do you need social media to be successful on Etsy? I would say I would say no, but it does depend on your niche and how big or small your niche is, because you may need to use some additional traffic sources eventually outside of Etsy to drive traffic. And I've been talking to a couple of people recently that have smaller niches inside of Etsy. So like where you just don't have as much traffic because it's more niche down. There's not as many people looking for your product, even though the audience is big, it's just not big enough in Etsy. So the problem comes where you can easily corner the market on Etsy, but there's just not enough traffic coming and looking at your thing on Etsy. So that could pose a problem. Now, if you're talking about like sports related or pet related or like jewelry, those niches are huge. You can still niche down within that niche, but those niches are huge. Those are getting tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of searches on Etsy a month. So you can focus on trying to capitalize some of that traffic first. Because Etsy gets they get hundreds of millions of searches every month. They have 100 million buyers every year. All right, that's a lot. That's plenty of traffic, and that is one of the benefits of Etsy is you're not having to find that traffic, right? You just have to figure out how to capitalize on that traffic. Whereas if you start your own website, you have to find and drive your own traffic, which is incredibly hard, especially at the beginning. So Etsy, yes, there are fees, there is prices, there is cost to it, but that is your cost to try to get that traffic. That's your price to get that traffic. And if you were to start your own website and try to get your own traffic, it's going to be an incredible amount of work or an incredible amount of money to drive enough traffic. So I think it is the best thing to do, especially if you're newer early on, is to just try to work on capitalizing and getting that Etsy traffic that is already there if your niche is big enough. Because a lot of people start early on and they they start doing social media and they start doing other stuff to drive traffic when their shop's not you don't even have a good foundation as far as your shop. You don't really, and no offense, but you don't really know what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's like you start riding a bike, you take the training wheels off, and then you go to a dirt road track to try to jump ramps. That's not going to end very well. You know what I mean? You're gonna bust your face. So you have to figure out Etsy, you have to learn your niche, you have to learn keywords, you have to learn what to do right, and you have to make mistakes along the way, and try to capitalize on getting some of that organic traffic through Etsy first and foremost, before you move into the social media realm, because it's going to just add a lot of, it's going to add a lot more work, it's going to add a lot more complexity, it's going to be harder to be consistent, it's going to create extra frustration. Starting on Etsy is hard enough without creating a lot more work before you figure things out on the forefront. And not to mention the other kind of side effect of this is if your shop, if you're starting off and your shop's not set up great, you don't have the best keywords, you don't have the best pictures, and then you start trying to send traffic to your shop, that's going to hurt you because no one's going to buy because your listings and your shop's not set up great. You know what I mean? So it's a waste. You're spending all this time on social media to drive traffic and people aren't going to buy. And then when you send traffic to your stuff and people don't buy, that means that the algorithm looks at that and they don't like that. Etsy, like any business, like any platform, wants to see people take action, buy and make money for Etsy. So, and you want to help it make money for you as well. So if people aren't converting, if people aren't buying, it's frowned upon by the algorithm. So it could rank you back further in search. So all traffic is not equal. So if your shop's not set up right, and you get a lot of traffic and people aren't buying, that could inevitably hurt your ranking. On the kind of the flip side, you're sending, if you're doing social media and you're not attracting the right audience, or you're messing up social media and you're sending the wrong traffic to your shop, um, that's not going to help you either, because those people aren't going to buy either. So it's kind of like, it could be, a double-edged sword when it comes to that.
Doesn't getting sales on Etsy feel like finding a needle in a haystack, and the haystack's on fire and Etsy keeps moving it? Maybe you think it's the algorithm or Etsy, but more than likely it's a combination of things that most sellers miss. Don't worry, I'm here to help. You're probably thinking, who the hell is this bald dude? But I was just like you and actually had hair. Putting up new listings, praying this time would be different and I could sit back and watch the sales roll in. Only to wake up each day, no traffic, no sales, and a weird message from an Etsy scammer, Sockman289, telling me to follow this random link to get my funds.
But after hundreds of flop listings, several shops later, I stumbled upon a few best sellers. And I noticed they had a few things in common. So I took those things in common, figured out a process, wrote it all down, and started implementing it on future listings. And I found that it started to really work. I went from 0 sales to over $7,000 in sales to over $100,000 in sales in 1 year, with over $540,000 in total sales in my best performing shop to date. In your face, Sockman Scammer 289. I even helped a 70-year-old tech challenged grandma increase her sales by 50% and have her biggest sales day ever at $500. Holy shit. So I thought, why not create a program to teach my fellow Etsy sellers the same strategy so that they could find the same success?
What happened next blew me away. I had hundreds of students join from all over the world in all different niches and start to get amazing results. I even had Lucas here get $1,600 in sales in 1 day. So what makes my program better than the dozens of other programs you see out there filling up your fees? Well, for starters, I don't just throw you into a random course with no support. There is a community and live coaching weekly built into this program. And don't worry, the community is not like a Facebook community. You don't have to worry about getting spammed or scammed or belittled by Chad, who hates his life. And there's an app you can download and take all the courses and community and resources with you on the go, no matter where you're at. It's so easy, even my dog can use it. All right, maybe not. She doesn't have opposable thumbs. But LL, how much is this going to cost? Well, similar programs out there cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars and throw you to the wolves without any actual help or support, which I think is total BS. You're here to get help making money, which means you probably don't have a ton of money to spend. I'm actually flipping the script, and this is only gonna cost you normally 20 bucks a month, but I'm doing it right now for 50% off. So only 10 bucks a month. And if you're like me, you love getting a great deal. So let's do a little craft math here. Say you invest $10 a month, and this program helps you make an additional 10 sales a month with a profit of $10 each sale. Very achievable. That's an additional $100 in your pocket each month for a $10 investment. I'm not a math whiz here, but that's an amazing freaking return. And if it's not a good fit, just like waking up, not having enough coffee, and putting your left shoe on your right foot, there's a button in your profile to easily cancel anytime, no questions asked. Click below to enroll in my founder launch of the Etsy Games VIP program for 50% off and build an Etsy business that actually starts generating sales. See you inside.
So that's the thing to think of first, is like, are you ready to take that next step? Are you getting some organic sales? Are you starting to feel more comfortable, with your shop? And then I think it's fine once you're ready to, when you have a consistent workflow and you're getting into the groove and you feel more comfortable, then sure, I think social media, getting into marketing outside of Etsy, it can only help you if you approach it the right way. And then again, if you decide to add a social media channel, pick 1 or 2 max to start with, because a lot of people try to do all the things. Again, it gets too overwhelming. It's a lot of work, so you have to move a little bit slower till you figure it out. So pick 1 or 2 max to start off with. depending on what you want to do. Facebook and Instagram are good because they link together. They're both owned by Meta, so you can have it set to where if you post on Facebook, it'll put that post on Instagram. And then you can also do through, if you have a business page for both, you can, well, if you have a business page, a Meta business suite, if you have business Facebook page, business page, and a Meta and a Instagram business page, you can do the Meta business suite, and then there's a scheduler there, so you can bulk schedule stuff. Someone was asking about that the other day. So yeah, if you have the business suite, it's a bulk scheduler that's completely free. You don't have to buy a third party. So I know some of the third party schedulers, they'll be able to schedule like TikTok and Pinterest and all the platforms. But if you have Instagram and Facebook, you can just use the business suite to create your content and to do the bulk scheduling. Because I think if you are going to start it, and that's one of the things I talk about a lot, is bulk scheduling your posts out. So a lot of this comes down to just organizing your time and your workflow so you're not kind of all over the place. So pick a day to bulk schedule out your posts. And I usually do mine Sundays is a good day. So you figure out, all right, how many posts am I going to post this week? And you just schedule them all one day. That's a lot easier. I think a big mistake that people make too is that they will go and, okay, they'll have in their mind, all right, I got to post like 3 posts a day. So then like Wednesday, they stop what they're doing. You sit down, you're like, okay, what am I going to post? So you're sitting there for 10, 15 minutes, and then you work on your posts. And then next thing you know, you got 45 minutes in the tank where you just worked on one post. Whether, and if you just did that on Sundays and you did all your posts, you could probably do all your posts in that amount of time. So it's just breaking up, you're stopping what you're doing, you're breaking up that flow to post, and it's really a killer to your production and your productivity if you're stopping what you're doing. So I would bulk schedule regardless of what you're doing. This is across the board for any marketing, which I'm going to give you some other ways to market here since we're on this topic. But anything, whether you want to do email, whether you want to do blog posts, stuff like that, you can bulk schedule all that stuff. Don't go out too far, a week or two max, I think is good. If you go out too far, if you go out like a month, you're going to feel real good about it because you don't have to do it for a month, but then you're going to forget what the heck you posted. And then other things are going to come up that you're like, oh, well, I want to do this, or I want to do that, or I'm going to kind of change, what I'm posting next week or something like that. So I think it's good. Just don't go out too far because it gets a little bit harder to manage. The other thing about bulk posting too, to end with, so I'm not talking about beating this to death, is it allows you. So if you bulk post for next week, if you have all those posts done, and then something comes up that's really cool, maybe you get an awesome review or you get something that you want to post about, you could still do that off the cuff. And you still have those other posts scheduled. So that's like kind of like extra credit posts. You know what I mean? So, but you don't have to do that. But if something comes up and you want to post about it, you can, but there's not as much pressure where you got to stop what you're doing and post. All right. Social media, again, you got to put in the reps. You got to figure out, what works. Same thing with Etsy. You got to figure out like what works, what doesn't work. At the beginning, if you have no following, no audience, you're going to be posting and no one's going to be liking it. No one's going to be sharing it. That's just how it is. Eventually that stuff will grow organically over time with a lot of consistency. And that's the hard part. Same thing with Etsy. You got to do a lot of work at first. You got to be consistent at first a lot before you see any results. Delayed gratification, it's the same for all this type of stuff. The other kind of thing I'm going to leave you with to think about as far as your social media, and I do talk about this in some of the courses inside the classroom, but it's think about what you're marketing as like a theme loop, right? It's important to post stuff that's of value to your audience. Where people get in trouble is they're posting stuff that people don't care about, or they're posting stuff that's just asking people to buy nonstop. People don't want that. They don't want you to sell to them all the time. They're not going to stop on one of your posts that's just saying, hey, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. So think about your audience, your niche, and what do they want to hear about? What is of value to them? You know what I mean? And you can be creative with this. It can vary. Maybe it may be a funny meme. It may be some type of useful tip. It may be an accessory guide. It may be uh, there's a million different things you can do depending on what niche you're in. So think about how you can add value, and then you basically loop that into different themes, and then there is your content. So think of like 4 or 5 different themes. So maybe theme one is like, okay, I'm going to post something new, which is fine. Like, here's my new thing, or maybe it's a teaser of a thing to come. That's fine. And then maybe post number 2 is something related to your product that's informational that could help them. If it's maybe if you're selling jewelry, maybe it's the best way to keep your jewelry sparkling. Like, here's a pro tip or an accessory guide. Here are the best ways to accessorize your jewelry for your dinner outing, or the best ways to accessorize for casual engagement, or best way to accessorize for work. That's 4 or 5 different value pieces of content there. And then maybe your third theme is something funny related to your niche. If you sell wine related stuff, maybe it's something, wine meme, a funny wine meme or something like that. And maybe your fifth theme is like a special promotion. So you think about it like that way in themes, and then you just, okay, day one's theme one, day 2 or 3 is theme two. So you just cycle through your themes. And your themes can change, you can add more, but it gives you a structure where you're not just like, okay, what do I post today? What do I post tomorrow? And most people don't know what to post, so they just share their listing. You know what I mean? They just share a listing. Wednesday, they share another listing. Thursday, they share another. You know what I mean? That's not going to grow your social media. People don't want you to just share their listing. They want some value. So think about how you can add that and provide that to them, so that they're going to continually look at your things and open your things. And again, that applies across the board to whatever you're doing. If you're doing email marketing, again, it's fine to share new stuff. It's fine to share promotions and discounts, but that should not be the bulk of your stuff. It should be those value posts to give people information, give people stuff that they need, that's useful to them, that creates value to them. All right. So that is how I would structure it. And then kind of moving into some other ways to market. Email marketing is good. A lot of people are a little bit more scared of it, but it takes time. You can create an email list, create a landing page. If you use Allura, you can create a landing page with Allura. Aweber does the same thing. MailChimp does the same thing. Whatever you want to do, you can put that in your announcement section. And usually people aren't going to opt into an email list unless you give them something. So the easiest way to do is like, hey, 10% off your first order, 20% off your first order, sign up for the email list. You pop that link into your announcement section, or you pop it into social media, or you share it wherever. And then that's how you get people on your email list. But it'll take time. You get a couple here and there. But as your email list grows, then you can do kind of the same strategy where you're sending out weekly emails, newsletters, or whatever, and you're giving them value. You're giving them things that they want. And then those people at some point in time will come back and start to buy from you. Email converts almost 5 to 6 times better than social media, just for the simple fact of people see all your emails unless it goes to spam. Whereas social media, only about 10% of your audience sees your stuff, because the algorithm blocks it out. So that's something to keep in mind too. That's why email does a lot better. And you can repurpose stuff too. If you have a newsletter, you can break out those segments into the newsletter, and you can break those out into social media posts. You can put a couple of themes in that you used in social media into an email. You can turn that newsletter into a blog post. If you want to start a blog, this is a great way from an SEO standpoint, to drive traffic back to your Etsy shop. And it's kind of a missed opportunity. You can create a YouTube channel as well. So that's a little bit more scary. Obviously, that's video, but there's some Etsy sellers that do extremely well with a YouTube channel, basically showcasing them making their stuff, talking about different aspects of their how they make their stuff, showing their stuff being made. There's some people that just literally set up a live feed of them making their stuff, and people love it. It's crazy. So it just depends on what you want to do and what you're comfortable with. So there's a variety of different ways that you can market and drive traffic. Again, when it comes to that, when you're ready for that piece of the pie, do you have to do it? I don't think you have to do it. And it's your business. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. But if you get to a point where you you're doing well and you want more and you just can't get more out of your business, maybe you want to do some external marketing to try to drive more traffic, or again, you have a super small niche. But I worked for years, doing really well without a lot of social media marketing. So I don't think with the amount of traffic coming to Etsy, I don't think it's 100% necessary. It just depends on your different situation and what you want to do as far as that, and how comfortable you are with it.